I was seated right next to the front door of the doctor's office, the closest one we could find. After the helmsman was shot, the captain and two deckhands cut down the ones who had shot him. Needless to say, they won't be going anywhere anymore. I was shaking, my hands trembling at what I had witnessed. What happened to spark such a reaction? The cook slowly paced in front of me. The two deckhands had returned to the ship while the captain, first mate, cook, and myself stayed behind to make sure nothing else happened. While the cook and I remained outside, the captain and first mate were inside. We could hear muffled voices from them and the doctor. I couldn't fully make out what they were saying, and it caused yet another icy chill down my spine. What was going on? This is our final voyage. Why was all this happening to us? I cradled my head into my hands. The cook rested a reassuring hand upon my shoulder and told me everything would be okay. How do we know? The longer we continue this journey, the worse it gets. Is this treasure cursed? So cursed it discourages those who seek it? I was uncertain on all of it. All I knew was we needed to end this, and soon. The door opened. I shot to my feet as the captain, first mate, and doctor stepped out. The doctor told us that our helmsman would be fine, but he would be unable to continue on with us. The bullet, thankfully, had just missed his heart. I thanked the doctor and rushed inside. Our helmsman was up laying there, almost sleeping. Almost as if nothing had happened. As I panned the room, I saw all the blood-soaked bandages and tools the doctor used. Thank the good Lord he saved his life. I walked over to the helmsman and laid my hand upon his shoulder. I told him we'd return for him once we had the treasure. I closed my eyes, said a prayer over him, then turned around to leave. He grabbed my wrist, as hard as his strength could allow. I looked down at him as he lay on the operating table. His eyes filled with horror, hands began to tremble, and fear etched upon his face as he struggled to utter one sentence. All I could understand was, "Turn back now." Turn back now? We can't. We won't, for we are sailors, and a sailor's life is to the sea. I gently grabbed his hand and placed it over his chest, carefully avoiding the wound. I assured him everything will be okay and once more that we would return for him. He rolled his head and closed his eyes so not to look at me anymore. I'm sorry, my dear friend, but you know our captain as well as I do. Nothing in this world will stop him. I exited back to the street. The captain, first mate, cook, and myself walked back to our ship in silence. None of us knew what to say or even do. All we knew was we had to get to that treasure. With no helmsman, the captain would man the helm. We all knew that. But the silence. The silence was absolutely deafening. There was no Tortuga. There was no ship. There was nothing but us and the cobblestone street we walked on. As we approached the dock, a woman dressed head to toe in rags bumped into me and fell to the ground. I bent down to help her up, only for milky white eyes to meet mine. A warning slowly made its way from her dry, cracked lips. Something along the lines of our destination has an entrance, but no exit. While we may find what we are after, the cost would be more than our lives could afford. She stumbled back down the street as I crouched in a daze. Who was she? I came to from my stupor to my captain asking if I was okay. I asked where the woman went, only for the first mate to respond with, "What woman?" None of them had seen anything except me falling to my knees almost in a trance. I told them I was fine, and we continued on. As we walked down the dock and grew closer to the ship, the captain began ordering everyone to prepare to set sail. The crew began running around, asking where the helmsman was as they prepped the ship. All any of us could say was we'd return for him. The captain and first mate went to the captain's quarters, the cook went to the galley, and I locked myself in my quarters. We would let the deckhands tell the story, for we didn't have the heart to say anything. Quickly the ship was ready to set sail. I went back above deck, moon hanging high in the starry sky, and leaned against the rail near the helm as the captain steered us away from the dock and back out to open sea. From the maps, it was less than half a day's journey to the island. Less than half a day? How could it be so close, but almost none have found it? Either way, we were ready for this voyage to be over. A few hours had passed. I was down in the galley watching the rising sun through the porthole as the cook prepared food for breakfast. Neither one of us spoke. Merely the company of each other was good enough. We had almost lost a dear friend a few hours prior, and it still weighed heavy on us. We had been on this crew for so long, it was our second family, if not our only family. We could not lose anyone else on our crew. We would never be able to bear it. From above us, we heard shouting and footsteps all over the deck, so I rushed above to see what was going on. When I ascended up the stairs, it became as silent as the night. Everyone was staring off into the distance, including the captain, as a smile slowly etched its way upon his face. I walked through the crew to get a better view, and I too became frozen with wonderment. It hadn't been half a day. Nowhere close. I should have known in that moment we needed to turn back, for before us, a thick fog blocked our way like a wall. And what I assumed was the middle towards the sky, a single peak was peering over the mist. We had arrived. The island was in front of us. The treasure was ours. We slowly drifted through the fog to find a spot we could drop anchor. As we did, we saw why none had ever claimed the treasure. Dozens upon dozens of ships floating through the waves, frozen in time. Damaged, broken, seeking, scattered pieces moving through the water. This island has claimed many lives, but we were determined not to be one of those souls, for they belonged to Davy Jones now, but he would not claim us. We jumped in the rowboats as they descended from the ship. The captain, the lead boat, while the rest of us followed behind, leaving only a handful of crew on board. It wasn't long before we lost sight of it. Then, as we drifted through the eternal silence of the mist, we finally saw the shore. It was but a small beach with very few trees and foliage. At the base of the small mountain, we saw a cave directly in front of us. The gods were showing us the way. We pulled the boats ashore and grabbed everything we needed before heading to this dark and forgotten place. At this point, we were ready for anything. We lit some torches as we began to progress into the cave. The cave grew darker, air more stale, water dripping from the ceiling echoing throughout the tunnel system. We knew we were getting close. We knew. As we turned one final corner, a faint light could be seen. It grew brighter and brighter as we got closer and closer to the chamber. When we reached it, we all stood in awe. A massive treasure hoard unlike which you have ever seen. Gold, silver, jewels, crowns, goblets, any treasure you can think of in this glorious hoard. We all began to collect it up, but I noticed something quite odd. Every piece of treasure was accumulation from countries and regions from across the earth. How is this possible? How did all this wind up here? Sadly, we may never know.